Hello class. Before we begin, I want to ensure we've got all our equipment with us. Our pen, not just our pen, our green pen, our pencils, and our ruler. I would like you to pause the video while you ensure all this equipment are ready. So when you're ready, click play and then we'll continue. Alright, I believe you've got all your equipment with you. Job well done. Now, what we're looking at today is what we call waste management. And our learning objective is to understand how an increase in various types of waste can impact on the environment. Okay, so before we begin, like we always do, what I would like you to do is actually to write down the learning objective. All right, are you all done? Remember, you can always pause the video if you're not done writing yet. So moving on. Now, I would like us to answer this retrieval question. Now, these are 4 questions. I'm going to give us about 4 minutes to answer these questions, okay? Again, make sure you pause the video and answer the questions. Once you're done, click play, grab your green pen, and then we can mark it together, all right? So pause the video and answer the questions. All right, let's begin. Now, the first question is asking us, what is population? Okay. Now, population is where all members of a single species is living in an habitat. For example, I talked about the last lesson about Mustang area. Okay, we humans, a lot of students, a lot of parents, they all live in Mustang. So we're a single species living in an habitat. Okay. Now, the second question is asking, what is an ecosystem? Now, an ecosystem is a natural environment of plants and animals interacting with their environment. So it's not just about living in that environment, but about the interaction with their environment. That is an ecosystem, okay? Mustang area, my area, is an ecosystem because why? There are plants, there are animals, and we're all interacting with our environment, okay? And that should be the same for yours as well, okay? Now, the next question is actually, I think 2 topics ago was, the question is asking, what does interdependence mean? Okay. Now, interdependence is when 2 or more animals or plant species are reliant on each other for survival. So they're dependent on each other to survive. That's where the word interdependence means, to depend. Okay. So when 2 or more animals or species or plants depend on each other for survival. Okay. All right, the next question now is going to ask you, which is a bit tricky. It says, in water cycle, what is it called when water rises from the sea, forming cloud? Now, I'm sure this can give you a bit of thought. This might link back to geography when you're learning a bit of geography. All right, so let's look at the answer together, okay? That is actually called evaporation and condensation. Remember, due to the heat of the sun, the water, okay, becomes what? Changes into gas. It goes to the atmosphere, okay, and then it condenses, it cools down, and then the clouds are formed. All right. The next question is about adaptation. Okay, I remember we learning about adaptation, and the question is asking you, how are cacti adapted living in deserts? Okay, I remember telling you, it doesn't really matter if you know what the plant is. The clue of the answer is always in the question. So how is it adapted to living in the desert? I know the desert is really, really, really hot, okay, and there's less water. So how do you think a plant would adapt to that environment? So you could talk about things like the long roots, so it could dig deep and get water, thick waxy cuticles, and waterproof to prevent water easily lost. The spines and reduce stomata as well, also to ensure water is not lost as well. Okay. All right. So let me just go back. In case you have you got this right, brilliant. Make sure you mark with your green pen. If you haven't got it right, okay, what's important is to make sure you pause the video and make your corrections. Okay, so pause the video right now, make those corrections, okay, and then when you're ready, we can continue. Okay, let's move on. Now, our learning outcome for today is, like I said, we're looking at waste management. Is hopefully you're able to describe what biodiversity is, why it is important, and how human activities affect biodiversity. Hopefully, we can also describe the impact of human population growth, increased living standard, and the increase in living standards on resources use and waste production. And finally, hopefully, we can explain how pollution can occur and the impact of pollution on biodiversity. All right, so starting question is, what do we mean by diversity, and what do you not think biodiversity is? Obviously, from the images we're seeing, we have two different pictures. We've got the diversity street dancers, okay? I think they are the ones that won, if I'm not wrong, the Britain Got Talent. And then on the right hand side are pencils of different colors, okay? So how does this link to the word diversity? I needed to think for a moment. What does the word diversity mean? What does the word biodiversity mean? So look at that. Okay, have you thought about it? Are you sure? All right, let's move on and see. Now, the word biodiversity basically means range of different plants and animals, species, living in an environment or in an ecosystem. Remember, ecosystem interacting with the environment. So different plants, different animal species living in an ecosystem is what we call biodiversity. Now, biodiversity is actually very, very important that species don't become entirely dependent, okay, on another species for survival. Now, it is very, very important that things are balanced, okay? If imagine if a species becomes too dependent on another species, what's going to happen is, if the other species dies or becomes extinct, you're more at risk of being extinct as well. So it's very, very important that things are not entirely dependent on another species for survival, if that makes absolute sense, okay? So that is why biodiversity is very, very, very important. Now, in this set of course, what we're going to be learning about is how humans impact on biodiversity and how these problems are being tackled presently, okay? And so this is what I want you to also think as well as we go through the topic. Now, well, obviously you're not in the classroom right now, but you're doing this online lesson. But I want you to think about this, okay? What has caused it? Why do you think this has led to? The first image by your left hand side is obviously loads of waste products, okay, and the right one is basically gases being released into the clouds and our atmosphere, okay? Why do you think this has increased over the recent year, and what do you think has caused this? I need you to think about it. Right now, I want you to say out loud right now what you think is the major cause. Say out loud that I can hear you. Brilliant. I think your ideas are actually quite amazing. All right, that is amazing. Okay, a lot of things have caused it. Okay, human populations has caused it. There's a lot of factors. Okay, and I'm glad you've mentioned some of those factors already. Now, here's the thing. Okay, population is increasing. The human population is increasing, and it's not just about children, new babies being born. It's about the fact that we are living longer. Okay, back long time ago, okay, the average lifespan of a person is about 35 to 40. Now we've got people that are actually living up to 100 years old, and even further to 115, 120, which is quite amazing. So our population is growing. All right, and what's interesting is, since 2002, the world population has actually increased to more than 1 billion people. Can you imagine what 1 billion people would look like if you're going to start staring and looking? All right, they could fill up a city like or let's say they could fill up United Kingdom, okay, without any space. That 1 billion people. Now, what I've done is I've actually included a link for you to watch a video about population increases on YouTube as well. Have a watch in your own time, okay? Now, This is actually another work I need you to also do. What I would like you to do here is actually to draw a line graph of the data, including the best fit line. Okay, try and answer the question. Okay, pause the video and do it. And I would like you to actually scan this homework to us. Okay, we would like to have a look at what you've done. So it's asking you to draw a graph. Make sure you use the graph to answer the question. For example, estimate the population in 1925, for example. So it's very, very important that you do that. These are actually really, really important because these are quite frequent GCSE-like questions. So try to answer it and try to show us your answers, okay, by scanning it to us. Now, like I said, pause the video and do it and let us know, but I'll be moving on right now, but make sure you pause the video and do it. Now, so the question is, why is the increasing population a problem? Obviously, it's amazing that we want people to live longer. We want to live longer, but there's a problem that comes with it. There's a price for it, okay? And this is the thing, okay? Standards of living have gone up over recent years as more people have access to resources. Yes, brilliant. However, this means that more waste is produced and this waste needs to be disposed of, okay? Now, we've got a lot of waste being produced now that we have more people. Now, imagine you being the only, okay, let me use a typical example, okay? Now, if you're the only person living in your house right now, it's probably just your plate you're going to wash. Cool, okay? Or maybe you're the one washing your plate, but there's only one plate to wash, all right? Imagine now living with the rest of your family. What's going to happen is the sink is going to get filled up too quick, okay, and the plates needs washing. So you're more likely to put more plates inside the dishwasher if you've got one, or use your hands to wash plates, okay? The same thing as clothing. You're less likely to wash so many clothes, okay, if you're the only one living in the house, but you're more likely to wash more clothes if there are more people living in the house, if that makes sense. All right, so like I said, this is a problem for waste, okay, because there's more waste being produced. Okay, now this waste literally includes sewages, smoke, and toxic gases, pesticides, fertilizers, lead, paper, cardboards, and plastics. And we know that some of this cannot be recycled properly, like plastic. Okay, plastic are really, really bad for the environment. All right, now these types of pollution can actually kill plants and animals and reduce biodiversity, and that is not good. Remember, we want to promote biodiversity, but this pollution waste actually reduces it. Okay, it kills the birds, it kills the fishes in the river, it kills the animals, okay, around our areas as well. Okay, now water pollution often goes unnoticed because it's sometimes difficult to see, but the effects can be disastrous. Okay, imagine oil spillage, for example. All right, it's really, really bad. There's low oxygen for the plants, for the fishes in the river, in the water, in the sea, and they end up dying. Okay, or look at the waste as well. Imagine waste are not being disposed properly. It's really, really bad for the reefs. It's really, really bad for the plants and the animals that live in the sea. All right. Now, toxic chemicals from household and industrial waste is taken to the landfill site. That was the picture I showed you. All right, and this can spread into the soil and enter waterways. Okay. Pesticide are also bad because obviously they're also washed into the waterways as well. And the bad thing is untreated sewage contains chemicals and parasites which can enter waterways. Okay, these toxins can build up in food chains and affect feeding relationship. It's gonna kill plants. All right, it's gonna kill a lot of things. All right. Now, also, it could lead to antibiotic resistance, but that is another topic for another day. All right. Now, we've got what we call indicator species. I remember talking about this at some point, and these are species that define or trait a characteristic in an environment. It can be used to tell how polluted an area is. Okay. Now, another task for you to do, I hope you've done the other task, is actually this one as well. Okay. Now, what I would like you to do is actually to have a read of this. Okay, you have 5 minutes to become an expert of either cause or effects of solutions of acid rain. I would like you to sit down and actually make some notes on the fact that you can remember. Okay, so do this and make sure again you email us some of this information. And what's going to happen is the next lesson we're going to continue with this topic. But always remember that email us if you've got questions. If you don't understand anything, always feel free to let us know, because why? We're your teachers and we want you to learn. Okay, so I'll see you in the part 2 of this topic on waste management.